Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video I'm going to bring to you 15 short book recommendations, and the best part about all these 15 books is that you can go forward and finish reading them in just a sitting each. They'll hardly take you 1 or 2 hours to read, and if you're someone who wants to read but are not able to find time in your busy schedule to fit in reading, I think all these 15 books will be great picks for you. I have both Indian as well as international books in all different kinds of genres, in fiction as well as non-fiction. So do stick on until the end of the video, because I'm sure that no matter what kind of reader you are, you'll have at least one book from this list that you can straight away go forward and pick. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. First, we have a very tiny little book. It's a non-fiction book about books itself, and it is The Clothing of Books by Jhumpa Lahiri, in which the author talks about book covers and her thoughts on them. Okay, this is not even a book if you ask me. It reads more like a pamphlet. You can see it is very tiny, right? This is a hardcover, and the book hardly goes for 70 pages, and this is how big the text is inside the book. So you can just go forward and read the book in a single sitting very easily. It will hardly take you 1 hour to read it. The writing of the author is just gorgeous and very simple to understand. You need not go back and reread it to understand any sentence in any way. It is that easy to read. And after reading this book only, I was able to understand how much authors would think about their books covers, especially in their translated editions, because it's not like every author knows all the languages in which their books are being translated into, and that is quite something to think about. What are all the stream of thoughts that will go on inside an author's mind when they see their book's cover for the first time, because it's basically the first interpretation of the story for the reader. These are just a handful of things that I've said which the author explores inside this book, but there is so much more. If you are watching this video, I know that you are a book lover, and I'm sure that you will love this book for that itself. The next tiny little book which I want to recommend to you is a children's story, and this is also the most popular book by the super popular Indian author, and it is The Blue Umbrella by Ruskin Bond, in which we follow the story of this very little girl who by chance gets this blue umbrella and how it just changes the story of her life. It is very sweet as a story. It happens in a small town or a small village, and anyone who reads this book, whether they have experienced it or not in their lives itself, will feel nostalgic about their childhood, because the story has that much innocence to it. It is super easy to read. You can read it in hardly half an hour. I think it's almost available everywhere online, even in the Kindle Unlimited catalog if I'm not wrong. Just go forward and pick this book. I'm sure you'll not be disappointed. Once you finish reading it, you will feel this light sensation of warmth spreading across your heart, and I think that's a great feeling to have after finishing a book. All of Ruskin Bond's books do deliver that same kind of feeling, but this one does it in a much more wholesome way for the length the story is. So you need to try The Blue Umbrella by Ruskin Bond. Next, we have the first book inside an Indian sci-fi / mythological fiction / fantasy series, and it is The Hidden Hindu by Akshat Gupta. This is the first book inside the series, and the second and third books inside the series are also titled the same, but books 2 and 3 respectively. I'm recommending this in specific because it's a very tiny book. You can sit down and finish reading this in just 2 or 3 hours max, and once you start reading the book, you will not be able to put it down, because here we follow our main character Prithvi, who's a 21-year-old, and he's in search of this Agori named Om Shastri. The special thing about this Agori is that for some reason he has been abducted by this group of people and kept in a high-tech facility, and the reason behind this is because Om Shastri says that he's an immortal and he has experienced all the 4 yugas in Hinduism and has experienced the Ramayana and Mahabharata first hand on his own. He's also searching for other such immortals in the world who are wandering just like him, and if all that he says is true, it can definitely change the path in which the future is going to be here on earth, right? And more than that, why is this guy Prithvi going forward in search of Om Shastri? All that is being explored in this first book, which is a great introduction for the series. I'm recommending this in specific because if you finish reading this and also ended up liking it, you can go forward and continue on with the series also. So do give The Hidden Hindu book 1 by Akshat Gupta a try. Next, we have an Indian mythology retelling, and this is literally a very tiny book, okay? All the books inside this companion series are also very tiny books. You can read this book and just be done with it, and if you end up liking this one, you can go forward and read the other 4 books inside the series also. The series is complete, and the book is Ahalya by Koral Dasgupta, which is the first book inside the Sati series, in which we follow the life stories of the Pancha Satis from the Hindu mythology, who are Ahalya, Kunti, Mandodari, Draupadi and Tara. This is the first book, and just see how tiny it is. It's not just thin, but it is also a very short book in its size itself. The text is also really big, so you can just sit down and finish this book in less than 2 hours very easily. The writing of the author is beautiful here, and we experience the story of Ahalya from her own point of view. She is not a character inside the Ramayana here, but it is Ahalya's own story. How things happen to her and how she experiences her life is shown to us here. The narration is also not so linear. It happens in different parts of space and time, so it will be a totally different experience from anything that you've read in mythological retellings before. So do try Ahalya by Koral Dasgupta. Next we have a cozy horror novella. I actually have a physical copy of this one but was not able to find it, and the book is The Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. In this book, we follow this ghost who's practically the worst ghost in the world. Okay, everyone who sees him makes fun of him and they are not frightened by him at all. Because of this reason, the ghost is very much ashamed and feels humiliated when a new family comes and resides in the house that the ghost is living in. The children especially just don't even consider the ghost to be a ghost. They make fun of it. The people inside the family also don't get scared about the ghost at all. It is very, very funny to read, and the writing of the author is just gorgeous. It is a well-known fact that Oscar Wilde's writing is just something you can take and dab in your eyes because he writes that beautifully. While being funny, it also does not discount the fact that this ghost who is a ghost right now used to be a person back then, and how that human value of the ghost is brought towards for us by the end of the story, and how these people who are living right now can empathize with the person who used to live and is dead right now is beautifully shown by the author here. It's not just funny but also quite philosophical, and by the end you'll even shed a tear or two because of the amount of emotions that the story carries. So do read The Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. Next we have a non-fiction book, but it reads like a collection of short stories, but these are actually real life incidents that happened in the author's life, and it is Onam in a Nightie by Anjana Menon, in which the author talks about her experience of celebrating Onam in 2021 in Kerala during the pandemic. The author was working in Delhi, and because of the pandemic she had to come back to Kerala with her brother to her parents' house, and they all had to live together. From then on they lived together for a few months, and everything that happened in Kerala with her family for her is narrated to us as short stories inside this book. They read like short stories, but they are real things that happened in the author's life, and the writing of the author here is really, really beautiful. It is funny, it is traditional, it just brings out the flavors of Kerala beautifully to us. The culture is properly represented to us, unlike in Bollywood and other such movies. So if you are someone who wants to get a taste of Kerala and the culture as a whole, you should definitely read Onam in a Nightie by Anjana Menon. Next we have a YA graphic novel, and it is Different for Boys by Partick, Ness, illustrated by T. Bendix. It is a very short graphic novel again. You can finish reading this in like 45 minutes or 1 hour max. And the interesting thing about this graphic novel is that there are a lot of parts inside the text which is redacted by the author himself while he has written the story. Okay, there are some curse words, there are some other things which are kept as secrets by the main character himself, and so many other things which are redacted as text from the story. But even with the incredible amount of redactions inside the text, you can understand the story for what it is. Here we follow the story of our main character Ant Stevenson and him coming to terms with his own life, his own identity, and whom he is authentically as a person within himself inside this book. It is happy, it is sad, it is angsty, it is romantic, it is a little bit depressing, and so many other such things. It's basically a mixture of emotions that is delivered beautifully using both words and illustrations by the author and illustrator here. It can be a bit heavy to handle at times, but that does not negate the fact that you can finish reading this book in just 45 minutes or 1 hour. Next we have a super funny Indian contemporary book, and it is The Belated Bachelor Party by Ravinder Singh. Now this is kind of inspired by real life incidents that have happened in the author's life. Now we follow 4 friends here inside this book 10 years after their graduation from college, where they have not had bachelor parties when each of them got married in separate years. So they are going together on this bachelor's trip after they get married to Europe, and they just take a tour there. While they are going there, there are so many insanely hilarious things that keep on happening one after the other, just like it happens when we go out with our friends. How the author and his friends have dealt with so many such things is the entire plot of this book. And of all the books that I'm recommending today, this is the biggest one, yet you will just fly through the story because of the amount of effortless fun it delivers. Okay, you'll be able to finish reading this book in just an afternoon, even though it seems a bit big. It's an adult book, so keep that in mind if you're going to read it. Otherwise, there's nothing bad about this book at all. Even that adult part is not bad if you ask me. Each and every chapter will make you laugh. Each and every chapter is ridiculous, and you can't even imagine so many bad things happening to a group of friends one after the other and making that funny. I have been recommending this book continuously for the past 5 years, and I've not seen as many people read it. So please do yourself a favor and just give this book a read. Next we have a YA contemporary book, which is also kind of a psychological thriller. It's a very short book again, which is basically the concept of the video. I don't know why I'm repeating it again and again. So it is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, in which we follow our main character, who's a girl in the final year of her high school, and during a summer vacation, just like any of the other vacations in her family, she and the rest of the members in her family who are super rich go to this island and spend the time there. Something happened in the previous vacation because of which a part of the main character's memory has been wiped away, and she is not able to remember anything from back then in right now. Her cousins and all the other people inside the family are also advised not to bring it up to her because she has to remember it herself. So most of the story does not make sense to you until you get to the final chapter of the book, which is quite frustrating. But the ambience that this book delivers is just something out of the world. If you're someone who has watched the White Lotus series on HBO and liked it, I'm sure you will love this book. I basically did not like the ending of this book alone, but the experience of going through the story like in a hazy way was really nice. It seems big, but trust me, if you start reading this, it will hardly take you 2 hours to finish reading it because it is that simple and moves that fast. Next we have a novella, which is An Island by Karen Jennings. Now, of all the books that I'm recommending today, this is the most difficult to read because it's literary fiction, and here we follow our main character, who's this man living all alone on this secluded island, and in that island, bodies always get deposited of the people who drowned at sea, and he just buries their bodies, lives there, and he's just basically surviving there on that island. Why he went there, what are the reasons behind his life being like this, and why has he been spending his time all alone on this island for the past 2 decades is the entire plot of this book. We also get to learn about his backstory, what all happened to him and his family, his younger sister, his parents, what kind of community was he a part of, what happened to that community, what are all the politics that were involved inside that community, how it disrupted families and just generations there, and so many more such things. This book is not difficult to read just because of the language that it has, but also the content that it is carrying. If you want to read a book which is short but also challenges you, then you can read An Island by Karen Jennings. Next we have a collection of stories by one of my favorite authors, and it is Love a Little Stronger by Preeti Shenoy, in which the author talks about various different incidents from her life as a daughter, as a friend, and as a mother, and everything in a very comfy, comfortable, easy to read way. All of the books by Preeti Shenoy are super easy to read in terms of the language, but the content that they have has so many layers. She talks about great many things that are happening in the society and reflects them as such in her stories. All of these stories are very Indian, very middle class, so modern, and extremely easy to read. I'd suggest you to start reading Preeti Shenoy's books with this one because it's a non-fiction. You not just get to see the author's writing, but also know her as a person inside this book. I remember I finished reading this entire book during my commute to and from work in one day. It is that easy to read, it flows that well, and once you finish reading the book, you'll just be able to understand what kind of a good time you had while reading this book, and it'll also make you crave more of the author's writing. Next we have a self-help book, and this is easily one of the best self-help books to read if you are someone who's struggling with decision making, and it is Yes or No by Dr. Spencer Johnson. This book has been written by the author of one of the most popular books out there, which is Who Moved My Cheese. That book makes you understand how you can deal with change in life in order to make more progress, and this book helps you understand what kind of questions that you have to ask yourself in order to make the best decisions at each and every point in your life. You need not take the best decision or the perfect decision at any point. You just need to be capable of taking better decisions over and over again, so that life eventually just becomes very successful for you. It becomes second nature and does not require that much effort from you. He narrates a story here, and through that story we get to know 2 questions that we need to ask ourselves when we find ourselves at an impasse to decide anything that we have to do or not do in life. It is such a simple book written in a very beginner friendly manner. Again, I think it's just 120 pages long or so. Yeah, it's just 102 pages long. So once you start reading this book, trust me, you'll not be able to believe how fast you finish reading it. The next one is a children's book, and it is To Be a Cat by Matt Haig. I know that Matt Haig is super popular for his emotional stories, which are very philosophical in their tone, but this one is a children's story in which the author narrates to us the story of this boy named Barney Willow along with a cat, and because of some things that he does, he becomes a cat and the cat becomes a human being, which is him, and so many other things happens to Barney after he becomes a cat. He gets to understand life much better and all the privileges that he has despite all the hardships that he's going through at such a young age. Barney is just 10 years old, okay? So this story is written in a way that when a 10-year-old reads that also, they'll be able to understand that it is very much necessary to understand, appreciate, and be grateful for the things that we have in life, while acknowledging that we have some hardships also. Since it's a children's book, it delivers such complex things that are necessary for all of us to be understood in such a simple way. So if you have a kid at your home, or if you want to read a book for the kid inside yourself, this is definitely something that you can give a try. Next we have a bookish book again, but this is a fiction book, and it's also a novella. So if you're a book lover, trust me, you need to read this book. This is the best book for you in terms of the ambience, and it is The Haunted Bookshop by Christopher Morley. I read this book in January, and trust me, every time I think about this book, I just get transported to the bookshop, which is the haunted bookshop inside this book. The haunted bookshop does not have anything supernatural or magical to it, okay? It's a very normal bookshop in a small corner of Brooklyn in New York in the 1920s. but just the name of the bookshop is the Haunted Bookshop. The special thing about this bookshop is that the owner there allows anyone who wants to come in to just browse through the bookshop, read whatever they want, and does not keep many restrictions there because he wants the bookshop to be an experience rather than just a storefront to go forward and buy books. While experiencing the atmosphere of such beauty with the books here, you also get to read a well-constructed mystery that is going on in the background. If you are a book lover, trust me, once you finish reading this book, you'll just want to flip back to the first page and read it all over again because there is no other place better than the Haunted Bookshop for a book lover from my experience. And finally, for this list, I have a graphic memoir. That is, this is a non-fiction book but narrated in the style of a graphic novel. That's why it's a graphic memoir, and it is GHomebody by Theo Parish, in which we see the life story of the author here, Theo Parish, who's both transgender and non-binary. I didn't know that a person can identify as both transgender and non-binary before reading this book. It was quite confusing for me. But after I finished reading the book, I have an understanding of how much vaster and wider the spectrum is for us human beings and just everyone in the world. Nothing is binary, everything is in a spectrum, and even that spectrum is much more wider, broader, and has so much of diversity than we can ever think of. And each and every part of that spectrum is just as beautiful as the other. The author shows it to us by their writing style and their illustrations here very, very beautifully. There are some pages inside this graphic memoir which are imprinted in my brain ever since I finished reading it because they have done a really good job of portraying their emotions through the pictures and their words. So if you're someone who wants to read cozy, uplifting, educational memoir, GHomebody by Theo Parish is definitely something you should read. And since it's a graphic memoir or graphic novel, it has so many illustrations and you'll be able to finish reading it in just an afternoon. So yes guys, those are all the 15 books which I wanted to recommend today, which are not just short but also can be finished reading by you in just a single sitting itself. If you've read any of these books before, please do let me know down in the comments how you felt about them and we can discuss further. And if you have any other such recommendations, please do feel free to drop them in the comments so that I and also the others who are reading through the comments in need for recommendations can get them from you. And if you did find this video useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.